and the presentation was amazing, astonishing, mesmerizing, spellbinding, fascinating, thoughtful, excellent, innovative, and exceptional is the
The
journey
journey explained through the whole presentation. The content was informative. The
learnings are collectible, and the complete audience were impressed with the presentation by the architect of the Central Vista, architect Dr. Bimal Patel, sir. We once again welcome the keynote speaker of today's program, architect Dr. Bimal Patel, sir. हम अभिनंदन और स्वागत करते हैं हमारे अपने वरिष्ठ और सम्मानीय आर्किटेक्ट श्री अमोघ गुप्ता जी का। अमोघ गुप्ता सर हमारे आज के प्रोग्राम के गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं। हम स्वागत करते हैं सर्वदा हसमुख सर्वप्रिय आर्किटेक्ट श्री संजीव बम सर का, जो विशेष से यहाँ पधारे हैं। संजीव बम सर भी हमारे आज के प्रोग्राम के गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं। And a very warm welcome to all the architects and professionals of the field of architecture of Bhopal and Indore. We welcome you all over here. Shubham karoti kalyanam arogyam dhan sampada शत्रु बुद्धे विनाशाय दीपक ज्योति नमस्तुते। मंगलम शुरुआत के लिए आइए हम सब मिलकर दीप प्रज्वलित करें, और दीप प्रज्वलन के लिए आई रिक्वेस्ट द कीनोट स्पीकर ऑफ द प्रोग्राम, आर्किटेक्ट Dr. Bimal Patel sir, the guest of honor architect Amogh Gupta sir, the guest of honor architect Sanjeev Bam sir, and to accompany them for the lamp lighting, I request the chapter chairperson, architect Vibha Srivastav, the center chairman, architect Akshay Selukar, and the honorary treasurer MP chapter, architect Anish Pal Singh, to accompany the dignitaries for the lamp lighting. जितेंद्र सर, वी रिक्वेस्ट यू ऑल्सो टू प्लीज़ लैम्प लाइटिंग के लिए हम सबको ज्वाइन कीजिए। शुभ दीप प्रज्वलन के साथ आई नाउ रिक्वेस्ट द कीनोट स्पीकर ऑफ द प्रोग्राम, आर्किटेक्ट डॉक्टर बिमल पटेल सर, आर्किटेक्ट अमोघ गुप्ता सर, एंड chapter chairperson architect Vibha Srivastav to come on stage, escort them. I also request the chairman Bhopal Center, Akshay Selukar, architect Akshay Selukar, to please come on stage. And I also request architect Anish Pal Singh sir to please come on stage. And I request chapter chairperson architect Vibha Srivastav to present a sapling to the keynote speaker of the program, architect Dr. Bimal Patel sir. I now request architect Akshay Selukar to greet the guest of honor of the program, architect Amogh Gupta sir, with a sapling. साथ ही हम अभिनंदन और स्वागत करते हैं हमारे अपने वरिष्ठ एवं सम्मानीय आर्किटेक्ट श्री संजीव बम सर का, जो कि स्पेशली इंदौर से पधारे हैं, और मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा अनीश पाल सर से टू गिव द सैपलिंग टू संजीव सर। थैंक यू डिग्निटरीज, थैंक्स अ लॉट। Uh, Now I request the chapter chairperson, Architect Vibha Srivastava, to please come on stage and familiarize the audience with the purpose of the today's celebration and along with the chapter.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to each one of you on this occasion, marking the Golden Jubilee celebration of the IIA MP chapter. As the current chairperson, I am truly honored to stand before such a distinguished gathering that includes eminent architects like Bimal Patel sir, architect Amok Kumar Gupta sir, architect Sanjeev Vam sir, and numerous other senior architects and friends who have been an integral part of our architectural journey. Our journey, which began in 1975 under the leadership of Malkan sir as the first chairman, has been nothing short of remarkable. Today, as we celebrate 5 decades of architectural excellence and companionship, it is an opportune moment to reflect on our past achievements, express gratitude to those who paved the way, and envision a future that continues to uphold the highest standards of our profession. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Architect Bimal Patel, sir, for graciously accepting our invitation to be the keynote speaker for this momentous occasion. His wealth of knowledge and experience will undoubtedly enrich our discussions and inspire us as we embark on a series of events throughout the Golden Jubilee celebration. In the coming months, we are thrilled to present a series of seminars, workshops, symposiums, and panel discussions encompassing a broad spectrum of themes, including accessibility, sustainability, history, conservation, AI, and digital architecture. These topics are not only timely, but also pivotal in shaping the future of our profession. We hope these events will foster meaningful conversations and insights that contribute to the continued growth and evolution of architecture in our region. As we celebrate this milestone, it is only fitting that we take a moment to honor the stalwarts who served as the pillars of the IIA MP chapter in the past. The dedication and tireless efforts of the previous office bearers have been instrumental in propelling the IIA platform to new heights. Today, we express our sincere appreciation for their contributions and acknowledge their role as harbingers of progress. Furthermore, I am delighted to announce that the IIA MP chapter is going to bid for NetCon 2025. The national convention organized by the IIA, we look forward to showcasing the innovative practices and diverse perspectives that characterize our region, fostering collaboration with architects nationwide and contributing to the collective growth of our esteemed profession. In conclusion, let us embrace the spirit of unity, knowledge sharing, and collaboration that has defined the IIA MP chapter over the past 50 years. Together, let us embark on this Golden Jubilee celebration with enthusiasm, a commitment to excellence, and a shared vision for a future where architecture continues to make a positive impact on society. Thank you, and let the celebration begin.
Thank you, Vibha Madam. And it's a great news that Bhopal is going to organize the, of course, we are at this point bidding for it, and we hope that we'll be organizing NatCon. I now request the Center Chairman, Architect Akshay Salukar, sir, to please address the audience. Akshay Salukar.
Good evening, everyone. And Bimal sir, what an enlightening session it was in the daytime. I hope most of us were there and it was such a wonderful presentation. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And I know how tight your schedule is. Thank you very much again. I welcome each and every guest. We have Jabalpur Center. We have guests from Indore. I welcome each and everyone to Bhopal. And yes, ma'am, definitely we'll host NetCon this year. There are few announcements. I'm sure you are not here to listen me, so I won't be taking much of time. We have added 25 new members to our family. I welcome each and every one to Team IIA Bhopal. We were planning to facilitate each of everyone, but we are in short of time. So we'll definitely have a very good conversation during the dinner sessions. There is a proud moment for IIA MP chapter. This time IIAPL golf tournament, we were the runner-up, and I would like to invite MP chapter team on stage. Please, I request the captain and his team to come on the stage. Manish ji, please. And who else can be better than architect Bimal Patel to acknowledge their achievements? I request Bimal ji, please come on the stage to just present a token of appreciation. Thank you. So now we want first. Next time. Thank you, everyone. NetCon is going to be held in Lucknow, and most of us has done the registration. Those who have not done from Bhopal, I request each of and everyone to get themselves registered. And we are planning a one-day trip to Ayodhya also. Hopefully, we'll be able to go in a big number. So I request each and everyone, those who have not done their registration, please do it fast so that we can manage everything in advance. Not to say much, thank you everyone for attending this program. And I'm sure Bimal sir presentation will be again the remarkable one. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Akshay ji. We are celebrating the 50th year of the establishment of IIA MP chapter. ये MP chapter जिसका स्वरूप हम आज इस तरह फलता फूलता देख रहे हैं, इस स्वरूप के पीछे कई लोगों का बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण योगदान है. हम उन सभी फाउंडर मेंबर्स को तथा सभी आर्किटेक्ट्स जिन्होंने एमपी चैप्टर को यहाँ तक पहुँचाया है, हम सब उनका तहे दिल से आभार और धन्यवाद सहित सप्रेम सम्मान करना चाहते हैं. तो सम्मान की इस कड़ी में मैं सर्वप्रथम आमंत्रित करना चाहूँगा प्रोफेसर एससी गर्ग सर को, और मैं अनुरोध करूँगा आर्किटेक्ट वसीम खान साहब को कि वो प्रोफेसर एससी गर्ग सर को मंच तक लाएं और उनका सम्मान स्टूल और मोमेंटो देकर करें. आइए सर प्लीज. मैं निवेदन करूंगा वसीम खान साहब से कि वो स्टूल और मोमेंटो देकर सर का सम्मान करें. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Wasim, sir. Now I request architect Neeraj Pahade to kindly escort architect Amok Gupta sir and honor him by presenting a stole and memento. I request Neeraj ji to please present the memento and the stole. Thank you, Amok sir, and thank you, architect Neeraj Pahade ji. अब मैं अनुरोध करूंगा आर्किटेक्ट आशुतोष नेमा जी से कि वो संजीवम सर को मंच तक लाएं. I request Ashutosh Nema ji to please present a memento and honor him with a stole. Thank you, Sanjeev sir, and thank you, architect Ashutosh Nema ji. The list is long, and we also wanted to thank architect B.V. Yadam sir, architect Sanjay Srivastav sir, architect Lokesh Tiwari sir, architect Rekha Jain madam, architect Manoj Sharma sir, architect Prabhat Kumar sir, architect Bharat Agrawal sir, architect B.N. Tripathi sir, and many more in the list. But due to one or the other reason, they are not being able to join us, although we have got a confirmation from many of them, but due to certain reasons, they are not over here. So, हम सभी उन सभी लोगों का जिनका योगदान IIA-MP चैप्टर को यहाँ तक लाने में रहा है, उनके लिए तहे दिल से धन्यवाद करते हैं. चैप्टर और सेंटर की तरफ से सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. यस, हमारे बीच में पीयूष सर भी बैठे हुए हैं, तो हम उनका भी बहुत बहुत सम्मान करते हैं. या प्लीज़, सो सॉरी, पीयूष सर प्लीज़ आइए. और मनीष गुप्ता जी से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप सर को स्टेज पर लेके आएं. आर्किटेक्ट मनीष जी, आप मोमेंटो और स्टोल से सर का सम्मान कीजिए. Thank you, Piyush sir and architect Manish Gupta ji. So now is the moment of which we are waiting for. I request Amok Gupta sir to please briefly introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Bimal Patel sir.
धन्यवाद संदीप. बड़ा कठिन काम है बिमल पटेल जी का परिचय कराना. बिमल पटेल जी किसी परिचय के मोहताज नहीं है. फिर भी आपने ये महत्वपूर्ण जिम्मेदारी मुझे दी है, तो मैं कम शब्दों में जो मुझसे बन सकेगा मैं परिचय कराने का प्रयास करूंगा, और कुछ छूट जाएगा तो विमल जी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि उसको छोड़ दें, क्योंकि कम शब्दों में समेटना आपके व्यक्तित्व को निश्चित रूप से बड़ा दुष्कर और कठिन कार्य है। विमल कर पटेल जी एज एन आर्किटेक्ट, अर्बनिस्ट, एज ए एकेडमिशियन एक मिला जुला व्यक्तित्व है, और इन्होंने अपने इस रूप को सारी बाउंड्रीज को तोड़ते हुए जहां एक और काम किया और सारी चीज को मिला करके एक काम किया। कई बार इनके किए हुए कार्य में हमें एकेडमिक्स की भी झलक दिखती है, एज ए प्रोफेशनल आर्किटेक्ट की झलक दिखती है। तो इन सब का एक मिला जुला रूप विमल पटेल। आपने शासकीय कार्य भी किए, निजी कार्य भी किए, और हर जगह अपनी एक अमिट छाप छोड़ी। शैक्षणिक दृष्टि से देखें तो आपने 1984 में स्कूल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर सेप्ट, जो लोकप्रिय नाम है, इससे आपने डिप्लोमा इन आर्किटेक्चर जो 5 इयर्स का होता है, मैं इसलिए स्पष्ट कर दे रहा हूं, कई लोगों को कन्फ्यूजन न हो जाए, 1984 में किया। इसके बाद आपने 1995 और 1990 के बीच में कैलिफोर्निया यूनिवर्सिटी बर्कले में उच्च अध्ययन भी किया और पढ़ाई भी की, मास्टर्स इन सिटी प्लानिंग। 1988 में स्नातकोत्तर उपाधि प्राप्त की। 1995 में आपने पीएचडी इन सिटी एंड रीजनल प्लानिंग किया। ऐसे आप डॉक्टर विमल पटेल के रूप में जाने गए। आपने अहमदाबाद बेस्ड एक HCP जो मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी ऑफिस है, उसमें जो डिज़ाइन, मैनेजमेंट, अर्बन प्लानिंग, अर्बन मैनेजमेंट, इस सब की प्रैक्टिस करती है, इसके प्रमुख के रूप में आपने कार्य प्रारंभ किया। ये ऑफिस पुरम में था। आपके पिताजी के मार्गदर्शन में इन्होंने HCP को आगे बढ़ाया। 1996 में डॉक्टर पटेल ने एक इन्वायरमेंटल प्लानिंग कोलैबोरेशन EPC की स्थापना की, जो एक नॉन प्रॉफिटेबल कंसल्टेंसी एंड पॉलिसी रिसर्च की एडवोकेसी करती है। ऐसा एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, और जिसने न वरन अहमदाबाद, गुजरात, बट आज राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे भी पॉलिसी रिसर्च के रूप में नए नए डॉक्यूमेंट लाती है। और दोपहर को जो कुछ लोग यहाँ मौजूद होंगे तो उन्हें सुना भी होगा उनका लेटेस्ट प्लानिंग नॉर्म्स के ऊपर एक पॉलिसी पेपर। 2012 से 2024 आपने सेप्ट मैनेजमेंट, सेप्ट यूनिवर्सिटी जिसको दर्जा है, कि प्रेसिडेंट के रूप में भी दायित्व का निर्वहन किया और सेप्ट को नई ऊंचाइयों पर लेके गए। इनका मेन कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इमेजिनेशन है मॉडर्नाइजेशन ऑफ द यूनिवर्सिटी, पेडागोगी, रिसर्च फोकस्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर, गवर्नेंस एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर। आपको कई इनाम मिले, फील्ड ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर में, प्लानिंग में अवार्ड मिले। लेटेस्ट आपकी उपलब्धियों में था भारत का सर्वोच्च नागरिक अलंकरण पद्मश्री। आर्किटेक्चर फील्ड से मेरी जानकारी में 3 लोग अभी तक इस सर्वोच्च नागरिक अलंकरण पा चुके हैं। चेन्नई के राघवेंद्रन जी, बीबी दोषी जी, और तीसरे डॉक्टर विमल पटेल जी। इन गुणों के अतिरिक्त जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण गुण मुझे दिखता है वो है सहज, सौम्य, सुंदर, विमल व्यक्तित्व। ऐसे विमल पटेल जी को सुनने के लिए हम सब यहाँ आज एकत्रित हुए हैं। मैं बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ कि आप लोग, आपने हमारे आमंत्रण को स्वीकार किया, और बिजी शेड्यूल और इस उम्र में जो फ्लाइट चेंज होने के कारण लेओवर पीरियड और सुबह उठना, उसके लिए मैं क्षमा भी चाहूँगा, लेकिन मैं हृदय से आपका आभारी हूँ। आप यहाँ आए और हम सब लोग के बीच में IIA MP चैप्टर के 50वें वर्ष के शुभारंभ में आपका मार्गदर्शन हम सबको मिलेगा। धन्यवाद।
Can you hear me? Can you also lower the volume? I'll speak loudly. कम कर दो या तो यही स्पीकर चालू रखो, वो पीछे वाले बंद कर दो। Is that okay? Can you hear me? Yes. Yes. Okay. So little more. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. Otherwise it gets too much. So. First of all, Gopal and Madhya Pradesh chapter, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's truly an honor that all of you are here. Thank you very much. One of the main reasons I'm here is Amogji's persistence. He didn't give up. He just insisted, and he had a lot of patience. And I thank you very much for that, Amogji. It's very kind of you to call me. Some of you saw this presentation in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I was going to do two different ones, then I decided to club it. I didn't know that some of you would be there in both of them. So pardon me, you'll have a seat second time. Maybe there'll be some differences. Okay. Before I start, let me explain. I head a firm. As Amogji explained, it was started by my father, Patel. It's called HCP. It's a large firm now. When I joined, it was small. There's lots of people there. All the work that we do there is collaborative. Everything is done by teams of people. Is that good? Okay. This work that I'm presenting is essentially a lot of group work, and it's my privilege to present it. I just want to make clear. As you all know, the work of architects is always collaborative, and I want to acknowledge that it's teamwork that I'm presenting. We have we have two studios. One is architecture, one is urbanism. In architecture, we do the traditional building design. In urbanism, we do urban design, urban planning, all sorts of interesting work. I've always been interested in public space design, and so that's what we do. I'm going to show you one project, architectural project, which is the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir project. Some of you have seen it, as I said. And the next is some research leading up to some policy work that we are doing in urbanism. So let me get on with this. Let me start first by architecture. So that's the Vishwanath Dham project. Unfortunately, when these LED screens are used, the slide gets distorted a little bit. The projectors work much better. So pardon me for that, it's a little distorted, but the whole slide is here. So just to start with, this is Varanasi, that's the Ganga flowing from down upwards. You can see the city all around here. That's the entire city. That's Banaras Hindu University here that you can see. And we are interested in this little square here. Okay, that's on the banks here somewhere, at this place, as you can see. And that's on the Ganges. This is the area in which the Kashi Mandir is. You can see this is entirely a dense walled city, and that's the square we are interested in. Here is where the Kashi Mandir is. That is out here, you can see, and that is the Gyanvapi Masjid. You can see surrounding it is a dense settlement of of the old kind. It's become denser over the years. There's lots of small gullies you can see. You can see one important road on top. which is a 40-foot wide road. It's not very big, it's full of traffic usually. And there is the Ganga river there. At the far end is Manikarnika Ghat. This is our most important cremation ghat. And inside in all of this is lots of different temples and various things happening there. So here you are. That's an architectural drawing of it. Start from that end, you see Manikarnika Ghat, you see some couple of other ghats. There are the gullies leading up from there. Gyanvapi Masjid, the Mandir. Mandir is hemmed in by development everywhere. And Gaudalya Marg is that 40-foot road, which was the prime vehicular access to this site. The other access is from the river. People used to come by boat and then go right up. Some of you must have been there already. And there are other gullies leading up here also. Very dense settlement and one of the most important temples of our country inside there. Here's a view, same settlement from above. You can see the masjid there. The temple is out here. You can see it is hidden amongst all the development all around it. And of course the original temple was where the mosque stands. This is the new temple. Down here you can see the Ganges. Those sewage pumping station towers are important. That's where you go up from. That's where people came up from. You can see it's a slope going up. It's a hill. There you are. It's a 100-foot climb. And then you have to go on the other side and come down 20 feet. So originally this temple did not have a sort of natural connection with the river. It was meant to be a temple on the other side of the hill, but there was a great desire to connect the mandir with the ghat there. And for the approach to be from the ghat, because people can come from there the best. You can also come from the gullies, you can also come from the street, but a lot of pilgrims want to come from the river, come by boat and then climb up to this place. So our brief was rather brief. It didn't have much detail in it. Just saying we want to make a connection between the river and so it was sort of an open-ended brief. There was no absolutely fixed program. And of course we want to make lots of pilgrim facilities and want to ensure that this area has enough security and safety for everybody. So these were the sort of very rough things we told. Here you can see once again the key landmarks. That's the masjid, barricaded on all sides. That dotted line is a barricade. And then you can see yellow color. And then there's a Gyanvapi well, which is also a very important site. So if you look at the precinct all around, it's quite a messy place. It's not all of it is ancient. Actually, very little in Varanasi is truly ancient. Varanasi was built a lot in 400 years ago. Lots of the building is from, a lot of the buildings you see on the ghat are no more than 250 years old. Historically, it's not. It used to be quite an open area earlier. But lots has been built and subsequently you can see lots of construction has been done. There's lots of concrete, there's lots of brick, lots of buildings have been added on. This was an old place which got denser and denser and denser. So it's densely built. That's really the important character. It has very narrow lanes, has very little infrastructure there. It's quite a mess actually. There's sewage flowing in open drains in many places, lacking infrastructure. It's often very crowded because when there were festivals, then there'd be lots of people, hugely crowded, and this made it quite insecure, quite unsafe. There's lots of priests. The temple economy is the most important thing there. You have lots of priests in this area. You have other high priests, different categories of priests. You have sadhus who are moving from place to place. You have pilgrims, vast numbers of pilgrims coming here. They want to go to the river, they want to go to the temple. There's lots of pilgrim movement here. There's lots of tourists also. So it's an important tourist site too. So this is, and there's a mandir. You can see here it's been built on all sides. This is the original state in which the mandir was. And here you are. That's the Gambapi Masjid, barricaded after the Supreme Court ruling. Very ugly barricade there. Lots of police, lots of security. Policemen, once security is required, then they, I don't know, some 1,000 policemen man the place. So it's very heavily policed. Before I get on with what we did, let me just explain the idea that this place, that the temple should be improved, that our temples must have better facilities, they must be cleaner, they must be, this is an old idea. And in the case of Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, as early as 1916 or 17, Gandhiji had gone there for the Congress session there in Banaras Hindu University. And there's a famous lecture of his where he says, can't our temples be clean? Can't our temples be better? If we cannot make our temples better, what sort of country are we going to make? It's 100 years since and nothing much had been done about it. So the idea was, let's take this temple and improve its precincts. So a whole area was marked out, 8.2 hectares as you can see. This is the area in which a special authority was created. That authority was the Kashi Vishwanath Special Area Development Board, and that is special. So a separate plan could be made for this area, and this plan could then be, you wouldn't have to deal with the development plan of the city and all the normal. So the authority was separated from the other authority, and a clear-cut jurisdiction was created. This was an important first step, which is what we told them, that unless you do this and create a separate authority, you have no jurisdiction except on the streets. So you have to do this, and that was a good thing. So we prepared master plan for this area. As usual, we start with a sort of measure drawing of the area, and you actually start off with a Google image these days, whatever you can get in your hand, and you start drawing, because drawing it tells you what you must look for more. So we started with this. These days, 3D printing technology allows a lot of things. Actually, Google is a wealth of information. Many of you might be using it already, but it gives you three-dimensional information. So this entire thing can be built up with just what you get from Google. There's no survey done for this. You just download it from the net and you build something like this, which is truly amazing, I think, and we should use more and more of that. Then we started the sketches and started seeing what's possible out here, how much area do we need, how do we connect the river, those boats out there, up here, what are the important things. You know this process, I don't need to explain it to you. You go, keep drawing it, people, you keep questioning it, showing it to the clients, etc. And we came up with a version 0 master plan, which said that, our basic move was to say that we'd create a sacred space around the temple, we'd create a civic space, and then we'd create a walkway leading all the way down. Of course, as soon as we did this, simultaneously the process was going on for not acquisition but purchase of the houses in that area. Demolitions had started, and this was the model we came up with first and said something like this can be done. So this is really the very first rough model that we did. But the demolition started, and we found that in many cases, many places where there were temples that were hidden away inside all the dense settlement, which became available. And we had proposed buildings where there were temples, so now the master plan had to evolve and change. As you can see here, this was not done in ancient times, 300 years ago. This is done in modern times. So it's not, it's the same people who were living there who have really abused that area. It's not just as if this is abuse since time immemorial. And you can see here a concrete slab resting on a temple. You can see these sort of things. And we found all the temples you can see wherever we had proposed. And so the master plan started evolving. And so that was version 1 afterwards. This was version 2. As we went ahead, we started defining what all the buildings would have, what activities could be there. We started adding things. This was all in conversation with 3 or 4 remarkable people who were leading the effort from the side of the government. One was Deepak Agarwal, he was the commissioner there. Vishal Singh. Vishal Singh was a really good partner to him, and we were imagining what this place would have. Some basic ideas were in place, but all the buildings were taking different shape. As we got more data from the site, remember that this was not as if we had all the data and then we designed, but we were designing, collecting data and going ahead. Here we thought version 7 was perfect. By this time actually construction started. Then we decided that we were going to change something. You can see that the real key issue was when you come from the boat here, you come and there's a pinch point here. From that pinch point you have to go inside. And one day I was on the site when somebody suggested that this is an old structure, but it's not that important. Suppose you remove it, what would happen? And immediately it became clear that if we remove that structure, which is not an old ASI structure, did not have that much any religious significance. So if we do that, we really change something. So you see, this was the old structure that was here, and if we removed it and made it smaller, then we would get better steps going up here. So from the ghats, we could climb up a grand staircase and go upstairs, up the hill. And so we made a model that looked like this. And we said, you know, you come here somewhere, go up. But half the old structure we kept, something that looked like the old one. Then we made an even bolder change, and we said, Pura nikal de. We removed the whole thing. This is what you will get. So then you get a really grand set of steps and go up. And so this is where it evolved. By this time, mind you, the construction had started, so this had to be additional work and had to be approved by somebody imaginative at the top, which we had. So that's the final master plan as built today, and you can see that this is what it is. Now let me explain to you. You can see the plan of the buildings. These are all, but let me explain to you as in a little more detail. This is the precinct as it was, and this is what we have transformed it into. So I go back once. You can see that this is what it has been transformed into. Yeah. Here's another model of the same thing that explains what the buildings are. This was a dynamic model, kept changing as we went along. Actually, the first one, the thermopole model, was the big one. Then we kept doing this. Here you can see some more of it. Okay. So let me explain, the precinct plan here. Now, this temple is actually a very tiny temple. How do you bring it to the foreground? How do you make it center stage? How do you give it some presence there? Was the real architecture problem. I mean, you understand very well. It's a tiny temple. So we decided to adopt a strategy that is used in many temples all across the country, that you make a parisar around it, a sort of an arcade around it, create a sacred space around it, and that gives it a little more presence, frankly speaking. This, compared to the mosque there, it needed to have some space by itself. So it was like this, right? And this is what it looked like. This was the actual area of the temple. There was nothing more beyond this. So then we took this and we said, okay, that's the axis, but we shouldn't use that axis. We want to go down this way. So we took a square like that and straightened it out. So it sits a little bit tilted inside that square. Then the Gyanvapi well is there, so we added that in, and this became basically the dimension, 75 meters by 42 meters, within which we could create this parisar. We created an arcade around, and we decided that this would be made of the same stone as that of the temple. We also decided that this would have very traditional vocabulary. Now, I cannot make traditional temple vocabulary, that's not my business. I can fix the size and shape and overall dimension. So we started working with a temple architect, and he was associated with the person who was going to actually manufacture the stone material. And so we started drawing up. He knows what modules, he knows how this, because all the stone is going to be cut in a yard in Mount Abu. and then transported to this place and then assembled on the site, because if you want to do this fast, you cannot do it there. Same thing with it's actually made all over. Actually, it's a marvel of technology that you can do this today. And so that was the temple, that was the parisar that was designed. You can see the gateway. And so we worked on this, and we worked with the architect. I mean, you could say things like, listen, I don't want so much, leave the middle little blank, let's keep heavy bottom, heavy top. And you know, these are quite amenable. But he knows how to turn it into, so that was the actual design for the, then this is as it is built. You can see this is part of the temple. You can see the gateway on the left hand side. You can see here's the temple actually. You can see the parisar all around. Inside have marble flooring there. Here you can see again the temple and the space around it. Here's another view, the main gate where you enter from. That's actually a lot of space inside. Gives you some sense of it. And all of this is actually new. It's all CNC cut by stone, stone cut, CNC cut. And here's all of this. The gates are all new. All of it, the basic pattern and decoration was done by the temple architect. The rest of it was done by us to try and put it together. Then outside the temple, we decided to have a large open space. Now the topography of this, I already told you, you climb 100 feet and then you go down. So there was one upper level, one lower level. We had some steps there. And many people come here in this place. There was no place to sit down and spend some little, you know, earlier you just pushed right through. Even now there is a bit of pushing through, but if you want to sit somewhere and wait for a while, there was no place. And so that's what the civic plaza is for, Mandir Chowk as we called it. And that is formed by this U-shaped building that we put here, which has the temple trust. We said it could have the trust offices, it could have some shops, it could have some handicraft shop, something. Really the program was made on the fly as we were going ahead. It's not the best way to do it, but that's the way it got done. So we took that square and we took that and put it on the other side and said this is and that's the U-shaped building that comes on the other side. And that forms a interlocking block. Here you can see this is the lower level, so that's the level of the temple. Outside you can see there are at this side really, these are just toilets on that side, washrooms for people to use. You come down those steps and so it's just holding that space. Really its job is to create that middle space. This is the level above where you arrive actually. So that's one floor higher, and there's an arcade, there's an emporium, that's where shops can be. That is what was imagined. And then above we could have an exhibition gallery and various such things. That's a section. Through that civic space you can see the key diagram below, the red one. It shows you, you see the arcade at the back. You arrive at this top level, climb down the steps, and those gaps below here, behind here is where the washrooms, etc. are. So these are essentially to create facilities for people. So here you are during construction actually, last few days of construction. These are the steps that you come down on. This vocabulary we decided would be fairly modern, but have some traditional element in it. You can see actually if you remove that little arch, this building could be anywhere. It's not every stone here is not. That arch is just hung there for a purpose of making it match with the rest of it. And this is the space you can see here, and that gateway is where you arrive when you come from the Ganges. These cables on top is the whole lighting for that area. We didn't want to have posts, so we just pulled cables and put lights there. Here you can see from above that whole area. You can see now the parisar at the back there. That's another of the same thing. And yet another view. You can see that's where you arrive from. Actually, when you go up to that top gallery, That's one spot from there. You can see on one side the temple, on the other side the river. But you have to go that high. There is actually no place. This temple and the river had no visual connection before. It had a sort of a meaningful connection, but a symbolic connection, but not a visual connection. So this is where we were, and that was lit up at night, quite sort of fantasy world in a way. Other thing was to ensure that all the traditional approaches remained. As you can see here, from the main road on top, there is a vehicular entry which used to be there, which we turned into a proper gateway, and a pedestrian entry. That's gate number 1. That's the only vehicular entry. That's where emergency vehicles can come into this area. There is no other access. The rest of the access is from these lanes, number 5, 4 and 2. These are lanes coming in from the city where you can come directly into the space. And number 3 is when you come from the Ghat, you come up. Now all of this has been lined up in a sense. So first let me show you the access from here. Earlier it used to look like this. So behind this police chowki is the entrance, and that's where you went. Practically this is through which you went inside. So it was opened up. This was the route for the pilgrim's path from there. And this is the area. You can see the gate here lining up with the axis of the temple there. So when you came to this gate, that's what framed the view. The whole point was to come up the Ghat, and at every point your journey is punctuated. First you're at the Ghat, then you see the gateway from the river, then you continue climbing up, full round, come to the next gate, you see the temple, then you come to the Parisar gate. There are 3 gates that lead you up essentially. And that's the gate you would come to. You see the temple at the back. These were some of the illustrations, early illustrations, that area. And here is the gateway, final gateway here. And that's the gateway done later on. The important thing was to also create this journey from the river right up to the temple. You can see earlier there were these gullies from which people came. It was quite messy right in the beginning. You can see here, you arrived, the place was announced by the sewage pumping station. Behind that is a lovely old structure, Lalita Ghat. This is the one that one with buildings built on top of it. That wasn't a structure, that was just a terrace. These sort of garden terraces were made they're all inspired by Mughal architecture, by the way, in those times. This was done in the times of Ahilyabai. And actually the entrance to the temple was where that Nilkant Kali is written. That was the entrance. That's that pinch point from which everybody used to go in. Okay, so this had to be cleaned. On the right hand side you can see Manikarnika Ghat out there, which was quite messy. People came by boat. There was no proper way of getting from the boat onto the. So this is what it was, and so this is, we said, you'd arrive, there'd be a jetty, you'd come to this place. The water level goes up and down, so you can rise quite a bit. I'll show you some pictures later on. And then the first gateway you can see, the second gateway, and the third gateway is right next to the temple. And you slowly climb up and you progress towards the temple. Here's that whole route, some early sketches at that time. We were trying to figure out what that route would be like. Here's during construction, quite a difficult project to construct because there's no access. That 40-foot road which is jam-packed during the day, at night you can bring some trucks. The whole project was possible only because we had a fantastic contractor, a guy from Gujarat called PSP Projects, a fine construction company, and he's like a magician trying to get this whole thing together. You can see the steps leading up. And this is when the Ghat was being built. There was also, as I said, imagine many cultural and civic institutions. You had a hospice, city museum, spiritual gallery, multipurpose hall. These were all imagined functions, okay? These were not things that were already existing, but imagined, and now they are being filled out in ways which were not actually imagined sometimes the way they were imagined. So here are all the, this is as you go up, you come to multi-purpose hall, spiritual gallery, city museum, hospice, gateway, and then you get to the temple. The place, the most important thing was the tourist and pilgrim facilities. So here you are, you have tourist facilitation center, then you have the Suvidha Kendra for Yatris, which has, you can leave your shoes there, you can leave your telephone, mobile, etc. there and go up. There's a food court, there's a guest house, and then two more, because there are lots of tourists, so you have security to be managed. So it's lots of logistics of this sort. And this is the drawing of that. Administration and security facilities, so there's a large building for police, Pujari and Sevadal office, temple trust office, etc. Okay. And finally the guards at the very end. So that was the guards here, you can see, that's Manikarnika there, and this new one that we created. Now originally this is what the structure used to look like. This is Lalita Ghat. This is a very old picture, as you can see. But unfortunately in front of it, this pumping station had been built, that structure had been built on top. All these buildings had no sewage system, by the way. The sewage just used to dribble down the sides practically. Okay. So a new sewage pumping station had to be created on the right hand side, and this pumping station had to be removed. And we were very clear that the temple would have a grand presence on the river. And so this is what it was. You can see Manikarnika Ghat there. You can see the old structure, the terrace structure on which all the buildings are there. It was quite a task, you can see. Then there is this old structure at the back. That's what we imagined it should be. So this is we said we open up this structure here, create a large plaza at the lower level, these grand steps leading you up, a gateway there, that long structure which would have wheelchair access. That also acts as a sort of a baffle and stops you from, when people come here, they didn't like to go from that side because the Manikarnika Ghat is there. And you want, so separating these two a little bit, so like a baffle wall there. And that's our imagination of what it would be, what we had drawn up earlier. And this is during construction, as you can see. The pumping station took a long time to build. We had to build a new one on the right hand side. You can see the pumping station being built near that red temple there. And these were the steps leading up to this place. Quite a feat of construction here. And that's, you can see some more of it here. And these are this view on this side. And that's when it was complete. So this is the full guard there, and now people moving up to the So we also, these masks that you see are lighting masks. They had to be done so that they can get submerged, light coming to this place. And so this is how it looks when the water actually rises up, yeah, and goes up there. And this, now you can come to this level. It's quite interesting. All of that lower area gets submerged. In fact, even the wheelchair access area gets submerged, and this is where it is. It's not, so this is, of course, this was a heavily political project also, okay? And the Prime Minister had put his full weight behind it, without which it could never have happened. And that also means that there was all sorts of interpretations about the project and all sorts of reactions. The Prime Minister made it something that was his own project in a way. And so there was lots of opposition to it. Various people worried for good reason what's going to happen here. Is it going to change the character of Varanasi? Say some more about that later. But it was a much discussed project. Projects in the public realm are like that. They attract a lot of discussion. That's the way it should be. I have no complaint with that. If you do not have discussion about projects, I just wish that our public authorities and we as architects and planners would be better at explaining things to people. Now we do that in a lot of projects, but we still haven't developed fully the culture of explaining projects to people, because then most people would agree. But there would still be a few who would disagree, because this is a democracy and you can't let everybody agree about everything. So there was lots of reactions from different people. We were monitoring the reactions. Property owners who felt it will not be the same. Somebody else says, the temples that we found were important. Different people have different takes on such a project, and this is within that. As Vishal saying, he was responsible for all the early acquisition of property, and here are other people. So we did many things to explain the project, like make brochures, make models, in this project actually we didn't do as much as we normally do in most public projects. We create exhibitions, we create brochures, we create films. In this case also we created a film. In this case, one novel thing that we did was to make a comic story. Through comics explain the project. So here you have a boy who comes into Varanasi, a modern looking boy who comes into Varanasi and is wondering why this place is like this, and meets this old man and who takes him around the city and shows the mess that it is in. And then he goes to the other side of the river, takes a dip, and when he comes out, everything has been transformed. So this was just some fun way to explain the project to people. And here you have the boy and the old man in the new Varanasi here. The construction was an amazing feat, I think. You can see it's dense, there is no access here, and so a lot of the stuff had to be brought by barges on the river and brought from the river. Here's the image in March 2018 when I first visited the site. This is in December 2018, so already in 6-8 months it is starting to, they're beginning to purchase the properties and start demolitions. Here's in January 2019, this is in March 2019, so after a year the place had been cleared up. We had nothing to do with this. The credit goes to all the people in the administration who purchased properties. Now let me explain how that worked. This area, as you can see from the texture of it, there's very few real old owners living there. All the people who used to originally live there have moved out, as it happens in dense center city areas. They're absentee landlords. They've given their houses to tenants, and those tenants now cannot be removed. So you have tenants there are many encroachers there. There are still some older people living there, particularly those who are tied to the temple economy. But all of them, the absentee landlords were very happy to sell their property to the trust, to the board that was created, because that board now, it offered them a lot of money, and they had tenants. Tenants ke saath, they gave the property over. The tenants and the encroachers were given an alternative: either go to rehab or we give you money. Everybody wants money, and they were very generous compensation. So most people opted for taking the compensation. For 300 houses, about 400 crores was spent. In addition to the houses, there was also some mutts and, there were some people who were genuinely aggrieved. They didn't want to leave. They didn't want the place to change. And I've seen every project that you do in public realm. There are always people like that who have a deep association with the place, want to stay there, but also such transformations have to happen. So at some point they sort of capitulate, agree, but they're still not happy about it. But there are very few. If the compensation is generous, then that number becomes really small. And the fact that this could be done with everybody trying to stop it from happening is that this method really works. Now you see October 2020, already construction has started, and this was 1 year away from completion almost. You can see the temple parisar started, the civic space started. You can see on this side not much has started, it's still going. This is March 2021, it is still a huge construction site. Here you can see the buildings have come up. This is September 2021, and so you can see the flooring has started in many places. And this is October 2021, December 2021, now going full speed because it's developing. and December 2021 is when soon it was inaugurated there. So that's when the lighting was done, and that's what the project looked like at the very end. Okay. You could see here, lit up at night, and at one level, this is a very significant temple, and therefore a significant project in the imagination of everybody in the country. It affects everybody, and it affects how they think about it. At another level, for all those who are worried that it would be completely change the character of Varanasi, I would show them the following sequence of slides saying that actually it's not changing the character of Varanasi, it's only 80,000 or less than that actually. It's only about 50,000 square meters in the middle of Varanasi. So if you look at this, you can see that it used to be this, it has become this, and if you put it in the satellite picture and you start going up, soon that project quite disappears from view. So it's really very tiny insertion. At one level very significant, at another level very, very tiny insertion in Varanasi. So that's okay. Should I just go on with the next one? Yeah? Okay. So this one is not really a project, it's a bit of research and it's a bit of policy advocacy that we are doing in the field of urban planning. But it is I selected this because it directly affects all architects and the way we work. Okay. And so this is work done in our urbanism studio, and the story is how we waste land in Indian cities. And this is something, this insight I'm particularly proud of coming upon, of having this insight that what really ails our cities is the waste of land that we do. Okay? So I'm going to say this, India's towns and cities waste much land, what causes this waste, etc. Let me just start straight away. So here's Ahmedabad, the middle of Ahmedabad. You can see here the riverfront on the left hand side, which also our urbanism studio did. This is Korea's stadium, you can see in the middle. You can see the metro line going through one side, you can see the other metro coming and crossing across. So this is bang in the middle of Ahmedabad. You look at it on the right hand side, you can see it's in the center of town. Okay? It's the most important part. It's 1 square kilometer of land if you take here, this is what you see here. And if you ask a simple question, how is the land used in this 1 square kilometer? How do we use land in our cities? Okay? And I don't mean it in the way that planners talk about it as land use is residential, commercial, industrial. That is quite meaningless. Actually, there is no reason why we should count it in that way at all. It tells us nothing. Earlier we stopped counting it, the better it is. The categorization for land use which we must use is the following. First we must ask how much land is in the public realm. Now this is very important because public realm is streets and parks. And streets and park is what make the public realm of a city. This is where everybody can go, nobody can be stopped, and this is what defines the character of any city. The more parks there are, the better the city will be. The more streets there are, more land there is in the streets, the better street network you will have. Also, the more streets you have, the more trees you can grow on the streets, and you will get a green cover. Right? So public realm is something that you should try and maximize. But in the case of Ahmedabad here, we have 20% of land in the public realm. Okay? So hold that number in your head. That's just 20% in the public realm. The next category we must ask is what is in building cover in a city. Like in a forest, you ask what is the forest cover? It might be designated forest, but what's the forest cover? So you count how much canopy of trees there is. Well, we should ask how much of the land is covered by buildings. Why? Because it tells you how much ground floor space there is in the city. Okay? And ground floor is a valuable commodity, which is why it is priced high. Right? Anything that is valuable to people, you should try and maximize. Anything that people value, you should try and maximize. So this is also a category you should try to maximize. Another reason why you should maximize it, not just because people value it, but if you have a larger ground floor, then you can stack up more floor space without going too high. Right? So if you decided my city will be only 4 floors high or 5 floors high, and if you had more building cover, you would put up more floor space. You wouldn't be forced to build tall, essentially, okay, if your building cover was good. Hold that number in your head, it's 26.5%. The remaining 53.5% is very familiar and it's very particular to Indian cities. Not many other cities in the world have something like this. It's all this private open space. It is the space around buildings, inside compounds, okay? And that the reason why it's left open is because the bylaws require you to keep it open, essentially. Because in a center city area like Ahmedabad, if the bylaws did not require you to keep it open, people would build it because ground floor space is a valuable commodity. Why would you leave the land open at all? So private open space, 53%, it's, as I said, open land around buildings, left open because of regulations. Much of it is fragmented and poorly shaped. So these thin slivers of land, right? 10 feet, pattas of land, no? 10 feet, 15 feet, small patches of land, very poorly shaped, very difficult to use. You can't use it for parking, you can't use it for gardening, you can't do much with it at all. It's suboptimally used. And you know, that's what I'm referring to as waste of land, because it is suboptimally used. Now, if you take a view like that and you see this is what, you know, this is that what is left out of that land, and you can see that this is how people use it. They try to make use of it, but they can't do much with it because it's not legal. So they try to build some storage spaces, you leave space like that between buildings. We don't realize that this land all adds up to 50%. A hell of a lot of land, really. And you try to use the front margin in some way. You try to, you know, do some steps, some landscape. A valiant attempt to try and make good use of it, but it's all quite senseless. If you'd rather make a larger building, or you might rather take this land away for the street, because the street needs that land. Okay, so many things can be done with it. You don't have to waste it like that. I'm not saying that leave it only for building cover. Put it in the public realm, put it in building cover. This is what you get. Now Bombay has the same sort of story. This is the costliest land in the country, right? Nariman Point, 29% in streets. This is because these were British streets planned early on, so that is why here. But 29% in building cover and 41% left open. If you take Juhu area of Bombay, which has now quite dense, because there are lots of buildings here, you see that area 1 square kilometer, 13% in streets. You can never have a city function with 13% streets. Okay, there's very little public land here. Building footprint is 25%, 62% is all wasted. You can see all that land there on that grid of streets there, which is all around. Take Pune, you get the same story, 1 square kilometers, and you get 13% here, 30% in building footprints, 57% in private open space. Jabalpur, same story, middle of Jabalpur, you get 21% in the public realm, 30% in building footprints, almost 50 in all this space around buildings. So there's something wrong with how we are doing stuff in the country. That's our, generally speaking, 20 to 25% in the public realm, 20 to 25 in the building footprints, 50% in private open spaces. If you take well-functioning cities abroad, you get a different story. That's New York. You can see the center of town. Here you have 45% in streets and parks, right? No wonder the city works a little bit differently. Building footprints takes 46% and only 8% left open as private open space. So this is land that is, they have squeezed out all that they can get out of this land. San Francisco, low-rise, high-rise combination, you can see here, this high-rise on top, low-rise below. Here 35% in streets and parks, building footprint is 55%, only 9% is wasted in some way or the other. Once you have a denser street network, the plots would also be, the plots would have a lot more frontage and they would have a lot more access. Obviously, you will see if you do we're doing a design for gift city just now, where we have applied all these principles. I'm not going to talk about that, but you will see as soon as you have more land for the streets, you can make a much denser network and the whole architecture of the place changes. Hong Kong has the same story. It's on sloping terrain, so there is a little more land in the, because you cannot build on a lot of it. Actually, it's physically impossible to build on some of this land. And this is a lovely city in France, not above the treetops, as I told you. Here you can see, if you take a square kilometer there, get 40% in public realm, 40% in building footprints. And the remaining is also quite well shaped, you can see here. Well shaped private open spaces that are usable. And this is Mexico. This is not a very rich city. So it's pretty much like the kind of cities we have, ground plus one structure. And here you see it is actually quite a poor neighborhood. It's 1 square kilometer there in the middle of Guadalajara, and you have 26% in the public realm streets. You can see a very fine, dense network of streets. So everybody gets, you see 69% in building footprint, 4.8% left open, because that's, if you allow people to cover, they will cover the land, because that's what they need. So this is the story. We make a lot of waste of our land, which is on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you can see we have much less. Okay, what causes this waste of land? All of you know it very well. It is the building bylaws. The building bylaws are text-based rules that require you to leave land open for various uses. Now, since they are text-based rules, even the people who write the rules cannot make out how much land they are forcing you to leave. You can find out only after the building is designed, right? But when they write the rules, they write for everything, they think separately, and they put the rules there. First one will be margins, front, side setbacks, dependent on road widths, dependent on building heights. I don't know why. Depending on building height, you must leave different margins. India is not a cold country. Okay. Then setbacks from other buildings, distances from buildings are fixed. When you have a nala or something, then you have to leave some land. Everything has a good reason, but it's the implication of this nobody has thought of. So if you can achieve this same, you can address this practical problem with less land being wasted, be better. But since we write text-based rules, there's nothing you can do. You just keep writing those rules, and finally when the city gets built, you say, oh, oops, 50% got wasted in this. You know, that's the way we are doing this. Common open space, why you should force somebody to leave common open space? Actually, don't force them. Collect all this common open space and make a big garden instead. Can you not do it that way? Setbacks from common spaces, greenery, sometimes bylaws require to leave green space that is open. Parking requirements, space for fire tender movement, all of them sound rational and reasonable, but this is perhaps not the best way to do the regulations. You have to understand, you want to get benefits, you must also understand what the costs of it are. So if you understood the costs better, you might decide that, I want this benefit, but I could do it in a better way. You know, that's really what good public policy making is about. Making good bylaws. I'm not saying fire is not important, I'm not saying greenery is not important, I'm not saying streets are not important. I'm saying all of that is important, but at this cost? I ask reverse question. Isn't all of this important in all those other cities that we saw? Don't they have a fire problem? Don't they have an access problem? Don't they have a light and ventilation problem? Everybody has those problems. How did they solve them and not waste land? Now, if you waste land like this, the city will keep spreading. And as we urbanize, if our city is going to keep spreading, what you want to do is make them compact. Now, making them compact means use your land a little more efficiently. So, what is making you waste the land? Well, the bylaws. So, you have to do something about the bylaws. So, sometimes your trunk infrastructure, a major, electrical line is going, then you release space. Everybody makes their rule without worrying about what cost the private person is going to pay. Because they say, my high tension power line is going here, please leave this much space. National highway is going, please leave this much space. Canal is going, please leave this much space. A gas pipeline is going, leave this much space. They don't bother, they just have to write that number there. The price is paid by society as a whole, right? So that is the real problem. Now, as if this were not enough, some bylaws also restrict coverage. So just in case all these rules did not make you waste enough land, they ensure that you will not put more than 30%. Okay? So how do these play out on a plot? Now all of you are architects and all of you understand. This is an example. This was a house that we designed. It wasn't designed like this because we wanted it like this. We might have done just a ground floor building covering a lot more of whatever. We could have done a lot of things. However, from the 100%, because of the shape and size of the plot, it is a long plot, right? So you lose 33% in plot margin. Then we are required to give a common open plot, so you lose another 11%, and that's only because we have overlapped a bit. So the architect becomes this person who is good at making this tangle of building regulation and saying how do we minimize waste for my client. This is essentially what then this is the access road, another 4% gone, other margins 10%, parking 3%, 61% land we can't build on this plot. No wonder people are unwilling to give up land for streets or give up land for parks. They say, "Baki zameen mein to you're making me waste all this." So can't we change the dynamic? Can't we say that whatever you have remaining, you please build as much as you want, but the rest of it. Now in Gujarat we started doing that, but here you can see only 32% is ground cover that we can get in this plot. Same in large apartment building, I don't need to go through this common open plot, access road, margins, parking, 70%. Livable area we can get only 21 after we put in the parking and things. Same thing for high-rise buildings here, 6%, 6%, 7%, 17%, 9%, all of it, 60% used up. Finally, when we come down to it, the building footprint can only be 34%. Not much sense. You have a plot of 100 square meters and only 34 you can build on. This is not how all those other cities I told you work. Actually, we have done, I could show you another presentation of how this would be done in the Indian context, where you could allow people to use 80, 90% of their plot, but you have taken away a lot of the land for the street and a lot of the land for parks. So architects have become what excise lawyers used to be, right? There's a tangle of regulations, complicated, and what you have to be conversant with all the regulations. This is like a lawyer, excise lawyer, who knew all the intricacies of the law and then expert at exploiting loopholes in the law, sometimes in quasi-legal ways, finding convoluted solutions that will actually. This is not where our creativity should be used. Our creativity should be used to optimize things for clients, not to tackle the mess of regulations. And we should put our creativity elsewhere. Okay, why are Indian building regulations the way they are? Well, because nobody has really given them much clear thought, at least not from an efficiency perspective. Okay, they have given it thought. Every time they sit down with the building bylaws, I say, oh my God, we're going to add another one. And I've sat in many discussions where they have these and somebody comes up with a good new concern. They say, sustainable development goals require us to have green cover. Okay. Another 10% gone. We cannot have fire tragedy happen. Another High Court ruling. Another एक नया regulation बना दो. So this tangle of regulations keep growing. It's a nonsense way of doing things. They are like that. Originally started because our conception of a city was a set of bungalows with compounds around. That was the British garden city. That was the company towns. Even Corbusier's Chandigarh was a nonsense concept for India. I mean, you have large open areas and buildings stuck in the middle. These are the things that fed people's imagination at that time. And company towns, British Raj. There are many practical concerns that are important, I said. Not as if they are not, but just that we don't think of the cost. When you want a benefit, you must also think of a cost. That we do it every day. We don't just think of benefit and then whatever cost is okay. Here the problem is the benefits are calculated by the government and the costs are paid by the private individual, and that's really our problem. Okay. Also, in the Indian state, likes to intrude in the private realm and tell you how much garden space you must use, how much fire safety you must have, how much this, how much that, how much that. I mean, people might make different choices if they're left to themselves. So it's not a very wise way to make regulation. And it's not the cost that I'm looking for. Okay, so what are the impacts of this misallocation? There's inadequate. Because you make people wasteland in their own way, then the streets they are not willing to give them. Okay? Whenever you make a development plan and streets have to be made, they're not going to make. There's not enough land for public parks. Now I tell you, how can you have a modern city without public parks? Okay? You cannot have citizens without public space. It's only if we meet together in public space that we will create citizens. Okay? If everybody is in their car or in their SUV and in their bungalow, in their apartment garden, and we do not have common spaces to live in, then we will never make citizens. We have to meet as equals in some place, right? And the place we meet as equals is on the street, in parks. That's where all the classes mingle. Now, I can tell you this from experience. I mean, there are many good public spaces. There must be great ones here where people meet, where everybody goes for a walk in the morning. That's where the mindset of a modern nation is built. We have inadequate building cover, and therefore we get unnecessary sprawl, and we're not able to have agglomeration benefits. So basically we get low productivity, unattractive cities, and higher environmental costs. How can this be improved? Now this can be improved in a very simple way. Stop using text-based rules. Now some people, this vocabulary has started. Let's use form-based codes, what people say, but I don't like to use the word form-based codes because that has a very specific American meaning to form-based code. I say just let's use volumetric bylaws. Okay, let's define the volume within which you can build and then leave the rest to the architect to, at least in the case of shape, height and bulk of buildings. So instead of trying to clean up this tangle, take this whole book and throw it out. I mean, not whole book, the portion that deals with the shape and size of buildings, just throw it out and use a new method where you actually draw out, demarcate land that must be left open instead of trying to define it through rules. Okay, so when you're sitting down in an area and you have all the plots, just mark out how much has to be left open and you will soon find that first thing you will know how much you are asking people to leave open. So automatically your mind starts working on the cost side. Even if that work is being done by public authority, as soon as you draw it up, say, oh my God, I told this fellow he cannot build anything here. Soon you start getting it and you can improve things. So we've got a chance to do that in Ahmedabad. In the center of Ahmedabad here, in this area, we created a densification plan in this area. And in this area, if you go in, that's that same area you can see. And I'm going to turn it around like that. That's that middle of the city. You can see once again, it's a very sparse street network, only 22% land in the street, and we were interested in increasing the land in the street. Now when cities redevelop, when small buildings are torn down and new ones are coming up, that's a golden opportunity, because that's the point at which you can take some land away. So when some area of Bhopal is redeveloping, it will take 20 years to redevelop, but from the beginning you can mark out, and that's essentially mark out the setbacks, whatever you want. So in this case, we took this area, this block, you can see it's a very big block, and we marked out first all the streets that we want in future. We didn't say that these streets in the middle are going to be taken straight away. When you redevelop, give us this land. And the FSI of that you will get. So the person is not worried about giving up the land. So you can see that the streets widened as well as you get more streets. So that was the idea here. And here you see that is what would be left eventually. Now we have to draw setbacks. So the setbacks were drawn like this. Whenever you have a neighboring plot, please leave a setback. On the street side, don't leave a setback because you don't need, fire engine can come and directly from the street access. So you build right up to the edge, doesn't matter. Having done this, this is the entire coverage. So you can see that in many of these plots you get 80%, 90% coverage. I mean, everybody loves that. Then define the volume within which you can build. So this is a development envelope, a dabba within which you have certain amount of floor space that you can build here based on the FSI. and this would be the amount of floor space you are allowed to build. So this is the clay that the architect has to be able to shape the building. You can see that the dabba is bigger than the available clay. Okay, there's a lot more clay available here. And obviously all the architects will shape buildings differently based on what their client needs are. So now within that volume, you have a freedom to shape the building in the way you like. Okay, and you will get buildings like this. I'm just simplifying a very complicated plan, but just essentially giving you, so everybody will do this and we will improve the street network of the city and get more street and get building cover that is more. And the bylaws will start looking like this. You will have text-based rules because, you know, certain engineering standards, etc., still have to be written in text-based form. But all the height and bulk regulations will be in the form of drawings like this. So those days, olden days, you used to have bylaws as a set of drawings plus text-based rules. Now we have only text-based rules. We need to go back to the drawings like this. So you get a portfolio and you look up your plot and what is available, and that's that portfolio. In greenfield areas, it's even simpler to do that. In Mumbai, where the Port Trust project we were doing, you can see that red land there. That's the old port of Mumbai, which is no longer in use. That's a whole other different project. But this is the street network that we defined there. Once the street network is there, you've got these blocks, because a street network consists essentially of streets and blocks. The blocks are 100 by 100, and then these are the plots inside that we define, and this is the setbacks. So these are the areas that you have to leave open. On this is the building volumes, and the heights have been decided based on some urban design criteria, because you get views to the sea or something like this. And inside this, amount of clay that the architects had was this, and each of the architects would shape the buildings in some way or the other. We had some other rules, but they don't matter, like arcades and things like that. But that's within the permissible envelope. This is what people will build. So that's the way you need to do building regulations, not these text-based rules. Okay, and that's what essentially the idea is. And here's the bylaws book for Bombay, which I hope becomes real at some point. The Ahmedabad one definitely has. So thank you very much. If you have time for questions, I'm happy to take questions. If everybody's hungry. Yes. Brief something about Parliament. So what do I say about the Parliament? Let me see if I can find something here. Yes. Once again, as I said, now listen, that alarm was, normally that's the time I go to sleep. So, and I'm sure everybody is also hungry. So, once again to tell you, I just get to lead a large team. All the work that we do is collaborative. There are specialist consultants, etc. and I'll just run you through some brief ideas of this. This was Central Vista, you can see down here below, was built Rajpath 1911, when it was conceptualized. Here you say 1862 was Champs-Élysées. These are all similar projects, Paris, Washington, and Central Vista. That's Lutyens doing a field site visit. You can see how the land was cleared at one time, and the Central Vista was created like this. The basic idea was simple. They wanted to create an icon for the government of India. So the government house, the Viceroy's house, was put on top of a hill that was overlooking the land below. North Block and South Block formed the axis. At the far end you had India Gate, All India War Memorial it was called, and on the two sides were formal gardens, and that was Council House out there. And this is the War Memorial. People would come up. The idea was to create a symbol of the power of government at that time. And this is a Latvian sketch. On two sides there were buildings proposed. This was called Kingsway in the middle, as you can see. And that was the fantastic sort of building at far end. This is what got built in 1930s. You can see Council House there, you can see Viceroy, you can see the two North Block, South Block. Most of it was empty in New Delhi at that time. That's, people of India took it over and converted this into Rashtrapati Bhavan. This canopy, they removed George V from the canopy. Now we have, of course, Bose there. This Council House became Parliament. It was never designed to be Parliament. And this North Block, South Block here. Post-independence management of Central Vista was not very good. We are not good at managing our after 1960s, lots of things started getting added to this place. You can see already those barracks have been built during the Second World War, right behind South Block here, and barracks were built also on both sides. One new street was created, new buildings were put in, but this whole area was not managed very well. It was not seen comprehensively. It was turned into a plotting scheme. So they were cutting out plots and giving to different ministries to build whatever. So this is from the 60s on. This has been a sort of neglected. And this is what it was, and this is what we made it. You can see this was, and this is what we made of it over the years. You can see some old barracks here. You can see all these spaces here. Many buildings. You can see the symmetry is lost. There is really not much. So this is the plan that we have proposed afterwards, and some idea of it. These were the problems. It's a magnificent icon. There's no question about it. This is really spectacular when you go there. These are hodgepodge of different activities. There's administrative, residential, cultural, all sorts of activities have been put together in one place. These were old barracks which were originally built for soldiers, and now there are offices inside now, and there was many people working inside here. They used to look like this. You can see this is in the middle of the city. This is the most important space, and being used for purposes that are not that significant or don't need to be in the center of the city. Okay. Incoherent architectural character. Every building was different. There's no problem with it being different, but it's also very there's nothing holding it all together, not even any symmetry, etc. A very poor use of land, most of it open, but still cannot build anything on it, which is absolutely what I was telling you earlier. Okay. If you look inside the offices, the infrastructure is quite inadequate. The offices are very stressed, and this is what the facilities look like even in IG and CA, for example. This is not the best our country can do. Okay. Lots of insensitive additions, alterations, infrastructure put in afterward. This is the Parliament building. You can see here when all sorts of things were put, air conditioning, fiber optic cables, electrical, communication cables, everything really making the structure. The landscape is also quite lackluster, okay? And the use of Rajpath was essentially for parking, because you parked out there and you went on the two sides. So this is where you have poorly managed parking facilities. Inadequate infrastructure for Republic Day. All this arrangement is done every year, taken out, the landscape gets destroyed. All of that was a real problem. And no facilities for tourists. You can't find a toilet anywhere, for example, once a day. It's 3 kilometers and you cannot find any village. So a lot of people over the years had said कि इसको करना चाहिए कुछ, but when something was done, of course, a lot of them felt कुछ नहीं करना चाहिए. But this is where. So the project started out as a sketch. We first studied what was the history of this in detail, a lot of information available from Google Maps, and then, like I showed you, the proposal kept evolving over a period of time. This is the nature of all projects. You know that this is how design is done. And this was the idea that this would be built here. You can see a number of things here. If I explain, near the old parliament, the new parliament, on the other side here, the executive enclave, which would have mirroring on the other side, the PMO, CAPSEC, etc. On two sides, office buildings, and actually full landscape in the middle to be improved and upgraded. So objective was Parliament's facilities to be improved, administration offices to be improved, cultural recreational facilities to be improved, secure infrastructure for executive offices, residential facilities for Vice President and Prime Minister, and protecting heritage of this area. So regarding the Parliament, this was early drawings. These are alternatives of the round Parliament. These were Baker's alternatives. It wasn't that he came up on the round first. He actually wanted to build the triangle, this star-shaped one there. But Lutyens insisted the round one had to be built. And so this is how it got done. They are very poor drawings. We had to digitize all the drawings, turn them into, there were archival images we could use and see. All the spaces had to be studied. You can see room by room analysis of what is in the rooms. Because, we manage our buildings without a single map of the building. Nobody knows how many rooms there are, how many people work there, how much furniture there is, nothing. So you have to go and measure. Every room you can see has been measured and furniture checked. All the old furniture was studied to see what we have. Here, studying expansion possibilities, it became very clear you cannot expand this. If you want more seats, you have to build a new hall, because you can see that the seats go right all the way to the back. Everything has been used up. This was meant to be for 150 people. There were 500 people using it, and now we needed 750 people. So there was no question. A lot of people said, why can't you keep the old Parliament? My friend, just do the arithmetic, it will not work. Okay, so that was a lot of additions, alterations in the old Parliament building that you can see here. All of them had to be removed, because all these verandas have been covered, converted into offices. The old building has been mauled out of shape, and you talk heritage, but only from the outside you can see heritage. The inside everything is completely a mess. The inside offices look like this. That's the kind of office structure there is. The infrastructure looks like this, okay? And inside the Lok Sabha, this is like our old trains, that the infrastructure is very, very poor. And seismically, it was not good either. So it's a much valued facility, but we decided that something new had to be done out here. And design of the new building, we decided to use the plot right next to it. It's a triangular plot. Already this plot was being used by Parliament. There was parking, there was some reception building, there was some CISF barracks were there. Technically, on paper, it was a garden. But after the attacks, it had been cordoned off and it was being used. So there was no garden there. So we said, okay, let's use the land a little better and put in a building there. Now naturally, the triangular plot, a triangular building made sense. It is a pure form. There are many, many reasons why this made sense. And that was the sort of iterations of the design that we went through. We started with 3 halls, then came down to 2 halls and a courtyard. These were the elevations. The last one is what got built. And that's what is finally being built out here. You can see here the the round building, and you can see the Lok Sabha chamber on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, the Rajya Sabha chamber. So essentially, it's a central hall, the triangular one. Then there are Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and there's a courtyard with dining facilities all around. And on the perimeter, there are office buildings. That's the basic structure of the building. The underpinning geometry is very strong, and so the whole building sits on a triangular geometry, and we had to try different grids. Because these sort of buildings require a very strong geometric foundation. Like our temples, they require a very strong geometric foundation. Here you can see the green is the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha is red, yellow is the central lounge courtyard. This is where all the MPs can meet and have. And on the periphery there are offices and there are entrances, ceremonial entrances, and so 6 entrances. The blue is the entrances. And this is the plan of it. If I take the Lok Sabha here, that was the visualization of the Lok Sabha. Now this is an old presentation, so I don't have, but you've all seen the final one in various images. So here's Rajya Sabha, and this was the visualization of the Rajya Sabha done at that time. This was central courtyard. This is the courtyard, and that's the courtyard. And that's the dining hall next to it, the library. All of it looks pretty much like this, but now looks much richer and nicer. So this is offices for ministers. These were the committee rooms that were like this, and these were the central hall, Constitution Hall. This is where the Constitution is kept in this sort of a chamber, and here, and this light coming in from top. There's a pendulum swinging in the middle. Now some details of the Lok Sabha. You can see the old and the new. You can see almost 3 times the size. The yellow, you can see 3 times the size. For the chamber itself, the lobby is much bigger. There's emergency evacuation. If you take, the improvement in the seating so that everybody gets proper seating here, you can see now they sit in a lot more relaxed fashion than earlier. These are bench type seating, but everybody gets a corner seat. Lots of things had to be checked. Presently, in the old one, the leader of opposition and the Prime Minister couldn't look at each other clearly, so the well was sunk a little bit. And here, this is a 3D printed model we made to try and understand what this would be. This is the furniture being manufactured, the mock-up in the furniture. These are images of, we decided to use the peacock as a theme for national bird, national flower, national tree. These are the 3 corners of the 3 building, and national emblem on top. And so here it is, the ceiling has a peacock pattern. This is the ceiling mock-up being done in the, and that was the carpet, designed for the carpet, the colors for the carpet. Here's the carpet samples being checked out. That's my sister, Kenna. She does the interiors for this. This is the carpet being made in Uttar Pradesh. These are the samples for the carpets. This is the fabric that was designed by a designer in Bangalore. And so the panels on top, which have the peacock motifs there, those were tested out like this. Okay. The acoustics, this we ran into a lot of trouble later on. All the audiovisual equipment had to be put in here. This is the furniture, which was designed by Ismat, my wife, and she designed this. These are the desks and chairs for it. This is the mock-up for the same thing being tried out here. And these were the samples that were made, and the samples being checked out to see. So it was quite an intense effort. Here is visualizations to check what the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister will see. These are the panels, the decoration for the panels. These are samples being done out there for this area. This is the Minister's office. All the furniture drawings were a considerable amount of detail in that. These are the mock-ups being checked out to see if the furniture is good or not. Here's the Minister's office. In fact, the Minister's office we converted into a full-scale mock-up. So this was actually built outside in a yard somewhere to see and test what it is going to be like. Sections and elevations, you can see the section here on top is the old parliament. This is the new parliament below. Okay. and that's the elevation. We wanted to match the two buildings but not mimic it, right? You can see here that's the section of the old Parliament, and we used that when we were trying out different elevation options. As you can see here, these are the models we made to check what sort of models. This is the facade of the building. There's another facade. These were all sort of renders that we did earlier. This is how it has been actually built out here. Here you can see these are the motifs. We had somebody in Delhi, a wonderful firm, helping us with all the motifs. And this is the effort of 300 people. You cannot, and design 300. I'm not talking of construction, I'm talking of design 300 people. Here are some mock-ups of the stonework that had to be done. CNC cut stone, how do you get this decoration right? Here are the drawings of the mock-up. Here the jalis being tried out, and infrastructure. There is a hell of a lot of infrastructure in this building. Actually, like modern buildings, if you open the hood of a car, actually inside it's all just machines like that, you know. There's these pipes going around like that. So construction progress, you can see here a lot of things being constructed. Once again, running against deadlines, not the best way to do things, I can assure you. This is the hall when it was under construction. This is, you know, the carpet is laid and you can see there's so much dust, it is not the best way to do things. But anyways, so here you are, it's still getting constructed. Chambers, so that's that, that's the Parliament. Then there's a lot more. The building's finished now and there's lots more construction. So I'm going to go back and tell the office people, ki naya banao presentation with things in it. So we'll do that. This is from 23. Okay,
Amazing
if
it
you have
is.
questions, I'm fine. Otherwise, you're going to go, let's go. Happy to answer questions. It's anyways past my bedtime, so now there's nothing much to be done. Please.
Forum is open for the questions.
Namaskar sir, my name is Kaushal Singh and I just wanted to ask one question. Sir, in the compound of Kashi Vishwanath, I could see some stainless steel railings after completion of the Kashi Vishwanath corridor. So had we thought of anything in that?
I don't know which ones you're referring to. There was some put in afterwards. That is what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the ramps or?
Yes, there are some that have been added afterwards. It's Kashi Vishwanath project, as I told you, was done with a minimal amount of briefs. So there are a lot of things that we did subsequently. A building gets debugged only after it's put to use. So a lot of things had to be added. This is an important point. You know, the way we do contracting for architecture design, we are supposed to design the building. When it gets finished, our contract finishes, we get completion certificate, we are out of there, and the building is up. This is not how it should be. And for a long time I've been worried about this, because what happens is that, like, even in your own home, you will have to put those small additions, repairs, additions, alterations. So post-occupancy support for additions, alterations, small changes that have to be made to make the building function well is something that we as architects should be responsible for. Right? We should do it. The problem is we don't have a contracting mechanism to do that.
Correct. So इसी के continuation में now with the second part, my suggestion would.
But let me finish. So what we are doing in lot more contracts now is saying that the building will be complete. You have to pay us fees up to that point. Building is more or less complete. However, right at the beginning in the contract, we are adding a clause that says post-occupancy support and a mechanism for paying us for it on a level of effort basis. So if we work for 4 hours to make something, paid for the 4 hours. That way, we can support the changes done afterwards, and client can get our services. So it's really a question of, there's a builder hote hain. When builders build their building and go away, then the residents are left afterwards to manage it. Now many good builders try to support the building and keep it maintained well. Same way we should be having a mechanism for supporting post-occupancy addition, alteration. That means really a contractual change. Really speaking, that's the key problem there. So that's.
So it's my basic suggestion, or like you were suggesting the building bylaws to be updated. So one thing can also be added, if any public building, if any addition or alteration is done, it should be verified or approved by the original architect.
I agree with you, but the only way this will be there is if in the contract, in the first contract it is written that the architect shall continue supporting. I'm doing exactly what you are saying. I'm saying उसमें पहले contract में ही लिखो. As soon as such a contract exists, it's much easier for PWD to say कि आप कर लो please, पूछ लो इन्हें. आज के दिन क्या है कि your contract is finished. Now how they will come to you, how they will pay you. What we are saying is post-occupancy. Now in the Kartavya Path, we are doing exactly that. Kartavya Path was finished, then it became a victim of its own success because a lot more people came, lot of faults we realized with the design afterwards. Then we had to make a new tender for addition, alteration and additions and alterations to the Kartavya Path, the cost of which was 10% of the original cost of the project. But that is what will save the project. Otherwise, the addition alterations will be very bad. And you are absolutely right. You hit upon a very important point, and this should be done. You can't make a rule say, you can say कि contract ऐसे बनाओ कि you will have to go to that architect from the beginning. Anyway.
वो information भोपाल में जो विधानसभा बनी थी 4 स्कोरियर की, उसके कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल उसमें एक क्लॉज था, मतलब है for 10 years. वो उस विधानसभा वाले में 4 स्कोरियर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में it was there for any further change improvement. 4 स्कोरिया is ready to serve and they'll have to their advice. Now coming to my point, मैं आपसे आपके अनुभव के आधार पे और लार्ज प्रोजेक्ट जो आपने किया और जो मैं सिनेरियो देखता हूँ, किसी भी योजना के 2 हिस्से होते हैं, नियोजन और क्रियान्वयन, प्लानिंग एंड एग्जीक्यूशन. अभी वर्तमान में सभी जगह देखने में आता है कि प्लानिंग में इन्वॉल्व टीम जो होती है बहुत छोटी होती है और एग्जीक्यूशन में बहुत बड़ी होती है और टाइम लिमिट नहीं होता है. तो दैट लीड्स मैनी ग्रे एरिया ऑफ डिसीजन. आप अपने इस काम के अनुभव पे क्या कहना चाहेंगे? ऑफिस स्ट्रक्चर एंड एग्जीक्यूशन स्ट्रक्चर के प्रपोर्शन. अभी मान लीजिए 10 आदमी प्लानिंग डिजाइनिंग में जुड़े हैं तो 100 आदमी एग्जीक्यूशन में जुड़े हैं. क्या यह अनुपात सही है या इसको कुछ चेंज होना चाहिए?
What we are doing is, see, once you design a building, all of us as architects know that going to the site frequently and monitoring the work that is being done there is of extreme importance. Because without that, without a good connection between the site and the studio, continuing through the construction period, you don't get a good building. In earlier days, my father's time, the architect was also certifying contractors' bills. Without a certification, contractor could not be paid. I don't know if that practice continues, but in lots of places it has been abandoned. So the architect's role remains limited to designing and execution कोई और करता है. We are reversing all of that. You are absolutely right. There are 2 things we are doing. One is we are insisting in all our contracts that please, we will not do day-to-day supervision. That's not our business. But we'll do periodic supervision, and that periodic supervision on the basis of which we will certify. Till then you cannot pay the contractor, because that's the only way you will get taken seriously on the site. And many government agencies are now agreeing to do that. Earlier they were not. Originally they were, then they weren't. Now they are agreeing because they see that we can bring value by being there on the site and adding to the supervision effort that they are putting by themselves. In my office, what we have done is we have created a whole cadre of people who are basically site people. So we have many projects going on. They will be the connection. उनका काम नहीं है ऑफिस में बैठना, उनका काम ही नहीं है. Every day they are only going to the site and coming back to the studio. So in some projects they go once a week, other projects they go twice a week. And in the case of Central Vista projects, we have 18 people on site right now who are daily connection between the site. So they are offices, eyes and ears, because to do a building like Parliament and to do it without our presence on the site is impossible. Even the contractor needs it, the project needs it, we need it, everybody needs it. So we have to put. Now, unfortunately, our contracts are not written. I think a lot of work needs to be done by people like IIA. I don't think this is the council's work. They won't even understand what it is. It's institutions like IIA which actually should be doing that, because we are in practice, we understand this. And we should be doing this work, because this is not understood by academic architects. This is, I'm an academic architect, nothing against academic architects. I'm just saying that this is not their job. They don't understand that aspect of it. But what should be good contracts, which will include post-occupancy, which will allow us to certify on site, which will provide some mechanism. These are the kind of things that IIA much needs to do, and hopefully, because IIA is truly a bottom-up organization. Council is a top-down organization. And this work has to be done by bottom-up people, not by top. In anywhere in the world, if the profession works well, it is because it is managed by bottom-up organization, not by top-down. So council can do what it has to do, but really the role of institutions such as IIA to actually improve our working methods is extremely important. Unfortunately, the focus has a little bit not remained on that. We should do more of that. We should be, professional support is really what is really important. So, that's it. Anyways, thank you very much.
I think all the three presentations were amazing, and they all deserve a standing ovation, please, and a big round of applause for Dr.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To felicitate Dr. Bimal Patel sir, I request Amok sir, Architect Vibha Srivastava madam, and Architect Akshay Seludar to please come on stage. Yeah. Maybe we request all of you to please
Thank you.
present a memento and a stole to Dr. Bimal Patel sir. Thank you, Bimal sir. Thank you, Amok sir. Thank you, Vibha, and thank you, Akshay. सफर की हद है वहां तक कि कुछ निशा रहे, चले चलो कि जहां ये आसमान रहे, जहां तक ये आसमान रहे, ये क्या कि उठाए कदम और आ गई मंजिल, मजा तो तब है कि पैरों में कुछ थकान रहे। तो नॉलेज शेयरिंग सीरीज के सफर की निरंतरता के प्रण के साथ हम कुछ और ऐसे ही प्रेरणादायक कार्यक्रमों का आयोजन करते रहेंगे। और I invite Anish Pal Singh sir to present the vote of thanks. Thank you, sir, and I request Anisa to present the vote of thanks.